And we are live. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the show. Welcome to episode number 2 of Tackle Talk. Today's question is, how do I catch more fish in the wintertime? Listen, if you've been in the fishing thing as long as I have, and I'm not tooting my horn, I don't want to sound like anybody that you guys don't know. I'm no Roland Martin, you know what I'm saying? I ain't even Scott Martin. I don't even think I'm Hillary Martin at this point. But I'll tell you, every once in a while, you can find me catching some fish, and usually pretty big ones. I mean, I'm not trying to brag or nothing like that, but I have been known to put a few 8s, maybe a few 7s in the boat just for everybody to show. Big shout out to everybody jumping in the chat tonight. I do appreciate you guys' time. I do appreciate you guys stopping in for the show. Listen, if you're new here, if you have no idea who I am, hit the subscribe button, watch the rest of the live. You're actually going to learn a lot of really neat techniques. You're going to learn a lot of really neat stuff tonight, and stick around. Check out the other content. I mean, I came into this thing about 3 years ago. I came into this fishing game, and the first thing I thought to myself was, I got to put this on YouTube. I've been fishing for 25 years of my life, 25 years easy. But I want to show people what I catch, because a lot of people don't believe it. And my methods and the way I do things, it's unorthodox. It's unorthodox for down here in Florida, guys. And tonight I'm going to go through some of the different unorthodox tactics that I like to do. But give me 1 second, because we have got a word from our sponsor.
What's up, everybody? Hopefully today we catch some giants. You know it's fishing, bro. You never know how it's going to go. Undisclosed location unless he's already said it. But this place has been known to produce 8s, 9s, 11s. Yeah, I mean, dude, they're out here, so we'll see what happens.
And guess what, guys? I wore my lucky fishing socks.
Socks on too, buddy. Heathensquad.com. Get yourself some. It makes you fish better. I don't know what the science is behind it, but if you wear these socks, these Heathensquad.com socks, you could probably catch yourself a couple of tanks. It's in the science. Trust the science, right?
At least a 30% increase in your average, but that's not typical, but it happens.
And we're back. Sorry about that. I know a lot of you guys are used to throwing... Hold on a minute. I don't want to hit the fan. Good God, this is a big stick. I know a lot of you guys right now this time of year are used to throwing things like this. You got big, heavy braid. You got bait casters. You're rocking heavy, heavy line, heavy rods. You're coming out of the summer. You're throwing big top waters, and you're like, this is going to be fire. That's what I throw every day, brother. You know what I mean? And we're all like that. Don't get me wrong. You see what's on here. Got me a big half-ounce Z-Man chatterbait jackhammer on there because, realistically, that's all I really want to do. I just want to sit out there and sling. I just want to sit out there and burn it. But that's not the way it works right now. Unfortunately, when things start to slow down like this, my statistically proven system of silly baits, it tends to catch more fish. Now, granted, I'm not saying every one of them's a monster. And if you've watched any of my videos before, you will know I will steady pull 6-ounce fish like it was my job. You know what I'm saying? My buddy gets so fired up about me. It just gets aggravated. And believe you me, folks, I don't like it any more than you do. But this last adventure that we went on Headwaters, you guys will probably get to see that like in February at the rate of my my cutting and editing. That's why I'm coming to you live, because I can't not do it at this point. I had a fire day. And I'm going to show you how I did it, because it works. It really does. This time of year, it tends to work. I've been out on Harris. I've been out on, Big Harris we went out on the other weekend. We're going to take a trip to Little Harris. I'm going to try the same techniques, but instead of running those heavy rods, instead of running those big, heavy gear setups, I went to something a little bit more, I guess you could say, untraditional for maybe headwaters in the South Florida lakes. That's right, boys and girls. I went spin cast. On some 20-pound braid. That's Seagar Smackdown. That's an 8-strand braid. Now, that's also a 4-pound diameter. So this stuff is like floss. You understand? You get hung up with this, you're better off asking your buddy to pull the boat up, because I'm going to be honest with you. If you grab a hold of it with your fingers and you're not wearing gloves, you're going to get cut up. You're going to slice right through them. Trust me, learn that lesson big time. Learn that lesson big time. But in going to a smaller setup like that, it allowed me to utilize my secret weapon, and that is this guy right. Oh, hold on. We're doing it live. Right here. That's it. That's the secret. 4.5 inch Z-Man Fatty Z in green pumpkin, red flake. This thing, I put this on to give you guys an idea. I put this bait on, I would say, I think it was November of 2020. I put this bait on. This same bait. The same one that's right here, right now, that I'm showing you guys. November of 2020, I picked up this bait and put it on this rod. That's the only bait this rod's ever had on it. This is the only jig head it's had on it, and this is the only bait actually in a soft plastic that I've ever had on it. Which, I know, sounds crazy. Well, you don't catch no fish. Buddy, I'll tell you right now, I will say, I was thinking about it the other day, and I think I ran somewhere between, I'm not exaggerating, between 30 and 70 fish on a conservative number in the first 2 months of throwing this bait. And now I'm going to tell you why. Not only do I match it with that light line, but I come in there with a 6 to 12 pound fluorocarbon leader. Now, the 6 to 12 pound fluorocarbon leader running on a 1/10 ounce, that's a Shrooms Finesse, Shrooms Power Finesse jig head right there. That's just a little 1/10 ounce, guys. Oh, nothing really exciting. But you can see the paint's just totally destroyed off this thing. I mean, but the key is the fall. And when I say the fall, everybody's like, well, I mean, we all just let our baits fall. But do we? Honestly, ask yourself that. Are you one of those impatient people that tends to lock your spool immediately on your cast? Therefore, the bait doesn't actually fall true to its location. It actually kind of drifts away from that targeted area anywhere between 1 to 3 feet. Then you add in things like wind, you add in things like water current, and next thing you know, you're 4 to 6 feet with these lighter lines and these lighter, jig heads. And a lot of people don't realize that. So you're taking yourself right out of the target area right off the bat. You tend to want to pull a little spool, pull yourself about a rod's length worth of extra line on it, but then be a line watcher. And that's why I go with the high vis green. A lot of people, it's aggravating to some people because you can actually watch my line, but at the same time, I'm spending a lot of time watching my line. With the smaller baits, one of the things you're going to know is you're going to get hit. And when it does, it's going to be really reactive if you're on a tight line, but running a 1/10 ounce, you're not going to get that same tight line reaction as if you were, say, a 1/4 ounce or a 1/2 ounce or 3/4 ounce. That's the reality of the situation. You're not going to get that same line movement. You're going to get a small, if any, touch on that line, and that fish has already got it. And more than likely, if he has committed, it was on the original fall. And that's where a lot of today's episode is going to be about. It's going to be about bait selection as far as size. It's going to be about fall rate. And it's going to be about gear as far as, downsizing. But let's take a minute. Let's talk to a couple of people in the chat. I got Rachel. Rachel's out there taking notes. I've got, let me see who else I've got out here. Move that real quick. Small Water Charters. He pulled a 9.9 at Headwaters. That is fantastic. Thank you very much for stopping by, Small Water Charters. I watched your Crowbie video the other day. Actually, this morning. I can't lie to you. I was pretty excited when that came out. 10.6, the first lake. Yeah. I haven't put any 10s in there. Rachel's in here. Rich Holloway's in here. James Malloy. Rod. You guys, thanks for stopping by. I appreciate it. But now I'm going to get all nerd talk on you, okay? Give me a minute. I'm going to shoot in between you guys on the chat side and into what I'm getting into so we can have an interactive yet informative fishing show. So guys, I don't know if any of you guys know about me, but I am a nerd. And when I say a nerd, I mean like we're getting ready to go straight whiteboard on this. That's right, folks. Straight whiteboard. We're going to do this together, interactive style with little charts and graphs and things you guys can look at. So it's not just going to be a whole bunch of me looking like a, guy talking to you on the internet. It's also going to be something that later on you can reference and you can move forward with that. But before we get into that, guys, a word from our sponsor. Oh, what's that? You noticed? My fishing gloves? No, those are cool. Yeah, those are the new Heathen Squad socks for sure, folks. I'll tell you, my fishing day couldn't get any better. I got my gloves and I got my socks. HeathenSquad.com. And we're back. All right. By the way, guys, heathensquad.com. That's heathensquad.com. Check out all the great stuff. There's a great, super friend of mine. Guys, he's phenomenal. He does a million different things all at one time. A lot of you guys know who he is already. For those of you guys that don't, though, he'll be linked somewhere in the channel. I'll put him somewhere in there because, like I said, shout out to my boy Outlaw. He is awesome when it comes to some of the gear. As a matter of fact, I seen somebody commented about my shirt. Yeah, it's one of the new ones. It's pretty sweet. It's pretty sweet. You guys check it out, though. Go over to Heathen Squad. You can check out all the cool stuff. And like I said, I don't know about you, but ever since I switched up my socks, fishing game has been on point, buddy. You understand what I'm saying? On point. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the fall. There's 3 different ways that I've learned to retrieve this particular style bait. Fire. One of the 3 is going to hit. My biggest problem, and a lot of you guys' biggest problem, is the mental breakdown of the retrieve. You're talking about the majority of us are used to chatterbaits, crankbaits, some type of continuous spool with maybe a stop or an off-pattern rhythm. Myself, I suffer from a very rare yet debilitating disease that I'm going to share with everybody right now. It's called Caucasianitis. Unfortunately, I have no rhythm. I can't even tap my feet on beat. You understand what I'm saying? It is bad. And so to tell me, hey, just reel straight, I can't. Something caused it just, I have a moment and I stutter and then I catch fish. So none of what you see is like, oh, he knew what he was doing. I really most of the time didn't, and it just happened by just coincidence that I ended up catching a fish. So the first retrieve we're going to talk about, we'll call it number 1. Number 1 retrieve is the drag. Bait falls. Here he is. Yay. And we literally just rod from probably the 20 or 35 degree angle straight up to the 75 to 90 degree angle. And we literally just drag and pulse that bait. You know what? I'm going to switch sides for you guys. We're doing it live. Who else is out here? Who else is out here in the fishing channel giving little lectures and stuff? And I actually got to get another expo marker. So guys, that's the drag. And you're talking about if you've got a 7.5 foot rod like I have, I tend to hunt with a 7.6 to 7.9. I'm moving that bait literally on average from the 90, from the straight 0 to the 70 is going to move that bait anywhere between 5 and 7 feet. I'm right-handed. Between 5 and 7 feet every time I lift that rod. So be cautious of what your bottom looks like. If you tend to be down here in the South Florida areas, like where I fish, now on the West Coast, you guys got beautiful sandy bottoms and the water's crystal clear. Well, it isn't like that where I live, okay? It's totally the opposite. So if you think you're going to fish Florida with this type of technique, you better really be careful of what you got going on the bottom. You're down fishing some of those South Florida lakes, Headwaters, Kenansville, Garcia. I'm just name dropping because it seems to work for Roland. But if you're on any of those lakes and you come with this technique, there's a pretty good chance running a light line setup, you're going to meet everybody's buddy, the palm. There's a huge palm tree down there that just got cut off and left, and you're probably going to find it. And when you do, you're going to know, and you're going to set the hook like you're somebody, and you're going to go ahead and snap that off and leave it there for the next guy that's looking around for that same stump. The second method that I like to use, it's simple, but we've all done it. Number 2. Oh, my handwriting. This is going to get atrocious, you guys. Don't laugh. Nobody laugh. This isn't meant to be funny. Bait falls, okay? Here's my little bait. Is a pull up and dive. Pull up and dive. Now be cautious of the pull up and dive. And there's a reason we talked about the math on the 7-foot rod earlier. Is because every time I come from what is 0 or plane to straight vertical, I've moved the bait, the distance of my rod, roughly 7/6. You got to figure minus the butt that puts the spool. That's measuring from the spool, guys. And the thing you want to remember here is that you're going to try to move this bait anywhere between 1 and 3 feet on your retrieve. So 1 to 3 feet. Okay. Now you're going to do that by maintaining the 0 degrees on your cast. There's my right angle for all you science nerds out there. Okay. You're going to do that between 15 and 30 degrees on a rod pull. 15 to 30 degrees will move the bait between 1 and 3 feet. So if you're in an area where you know there's beds and you're in the high, areas that are hydrilla with scattered beds in between them, and you feel that resistance of the hydrilla as you're coming up, and then you feel it let loose, it'll actually fall in that area of that bed. There's a pretty good chance it's going to be immediate. I'm just telling you, it's going to happen. You're not even going to realize it's happened because it's going to be on the down. Another thing you want to remember with any of these techniques is that you want to make sure your line is light enough that you can feel that 10th ounce actually touch the bottom. You will physically feel it in your rod that weight has just struck with a surface, and as well as using a high vis line, that line has moved or stopped moving based on what's occurring with the bait under the water. Now the third method, I'm going to share you guys a super duper secret here. Okay, I don't tell everybody about this one, and there's a reason I don't tell everybody about this one, and that's because if you guys all start using it, there's a pretty good chance that I'm not going to have too many more fish to catch. You know what I mean? Because some of you guys go out there and wear it out. I know Small Water Charters, he rolls it out, bud. I mean, I see him. Let me rephrase that. If your wife's listening, your wife, bud, rolls it out. I don't know. I've seen her hurt it down on many a times down there on the lake. I wouldn't put it on her. I wouldn't say nothing about it. She could fish now. I grant her that. And now number 3. Number 3 is a killer. And when I show you guys this, you're going to be like, how do you do that? And I'm going to say, I can't explain it. It just occurs. All right. And what I'm going to do here, I call the drift. Now, the drift is really interesting because the drift is a combination of the first and second technique. Now, this really keeps the bait in the strike zone the longest. Now, the reason I use the Z-Man products is because of neutral buoyancy, but we're going to talk about that later when we talk about presentation, or maybe in another episode. We'll see how this goes. But the third technique is the drift. You're going to start standard fall to the bottom. Here's our little guy. Okay, I give the rod a pop, which is the same as technique 1, which brings the bait immediately up into a slow pull back. Pop, slow lift. So my initial pop is 15 to 20 degrees. My drift, where I pull back, is almost 75 to 90 degrees. Now, what that does is that brings the bait up, causes it to fall and settle. Now, if you look at these 3 patterns, you'll notice this is a bottom contact. This bottom contact is more sporadic on the second method, but sometimes that jumping technique of that bait just gets the bass to trigger. There's nothing, it literally, they will reposition on it to look at it and move around it, and suddenly it pulls up in their face. They just bite. It's instinctively, they have to strike. That's just what they have to do. And that's really what I try to do with this technique. That's why we have so many high percentage catches with a technique like this. This third technique is really good for a clearer bottom area. Not clear, not perfectly clear. I'm not talking about crystal clear, okay? I'm just talking about an even surface area with an exposed strike zone. So I'm going to fish this technique. Now, I'm going to fish this technique all the way from 0 feet to 100 feet. I mean, I could really, I don't know. I've never tested it in that kind of depth. But I will tell you that if I'm in 1 to 8 feet, I would say 3 to 8. I wouldn't say 1 because this isn't really that kind of drag technique. You'd be looking for something like that in 1 foot. But in 3 to 8 feet of water, this technique will keep the bait in the strike zone, which is the widest area. You say if this was 5 feet, this area right here is from 3 to 5. That 3 to 5, maybe 2 to 5 foot area of that bait drifting in that strike zone over a distance of, I'd say my pull is about 4 to 6 feet. Perfect. I nailed it. Left-handed. This is skill. I don't know if you guys know this or not, but 4 to 6 feet per pull. So I shorten my time that my bait's actually out in the water, but I increase my coverage area, which allows me to use fan casting techniques and find more fish. So again, you might not think, oh, I can't bring myself to that kind of technique. The reality of the situation is it's not as much bringing yourself to that technique as bringing the fish to your technique. That's something I've learned over the years, is actually instead of attempting to find them, I attempt to trigger them as fast as I can. That's my goal. Trigger them, trigger them, trigger them, trigger them. You know what I mean? So let's check out some chat. All right. I know I'm hard on Roland, bud. I'm sorry. I try not to be. I see Rod's up there in Ohio, Lake Erie. Goodness. Outlaws enjoying the fire, Michael, just so you know. I'm going to use it just for general fishing. She's the hammer. Your wife's got skills, bud. I will say that. She is a talented angler. She's a talented angler. Take your left hand, put it on your side, roll your shoulders, do the slip slide, then set the hook. Yeah, that's the way it feels, man, sometimes. Bass are predator fish. Yes, they are, Rod, but when there's spawn on the mind, it's not as easy as you think it is to get these fish to trigger. If you can find beds, that's great. But 99% of the time, either A, you're not in the right depth or temperature of water to find those beds that those bass are attracted to. You're seeing beds that are kind of shared between other species like tilapia, cicada, or not cicada, that's that fly thing. What is that Oscar? What is an Oscar? Somebody in the chat tell me what an Oscar is. I don't know. Maybe somebody will respond. Mo Grady says your artwork needs some help, bro. No way, man. I've got nice art going on here. But let me see. Pondfish, biggest fish I caught at bluegill. I caught a number of rubberworm 8-pounder good fish. Nice. So again, now the next thing we're going to get into is bait size, because this is what really, really, really determines how this whole technique's going to work for you. Let's talk a little bit about bait presentation real quick, and then we'll go into bait size, and then we'll call it quits for the evening. Here's what we've got. Neutral buoyancy. I know a lot of you guys think that the bait's position in the water, either like this, with the majority of your stick baits, they'll have a slow ascend that'll fall to a flat, or they'll have a nice big heavy, like something like this, like a 1/5 ounce. You know what I mean? You're like, oh yeah, 1/5 ounce to 1/8 ounce, or a what is it, 1/5 ounce, 1/4 ounce, like a 1/2 ounce, you know? You're like, yeah, every time that thing falls, man, it sits perfectly vertical on the bottom, and it's got a special flat spot on there, so it sits just like this in the presentation. And guys, I know the gimmick sounds good, but the reality is the science don't math. It just doesn't math. If your plastic is not neutral buoyant, 99% of the time, the weight is going to cause it to fall. It's going to fall to either side, regardless of how your head's shaped or positioned. It's going to tend to fall to one side or another. And that's where the neutral buoyancy comes in. Now, there's a reason that I stick with the Z-Man products, and I'm not going to kid you guys, man. I know it's stupid. Oh, they ain't paying you. Listen, they don't have to pay me. I bought all this stuff. It's not a sponsorship or anything like that. It's just the product itself. And I'll show you what I'm talking about. Anybody got any soft plastics at their house right now? If you do, raise your hand. Okay, Timmy, get your soft plastic out, because we're going to do a little experiment. Everybody watch. Look at Timmy. All right, Timmy. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to challenge you right here, buddy. I want you to grab your soft plastic, okay? I want you to hold it up. And I want you to pull on it. Not like you do, Timmy, the soft plastic, the bait, okay? Just go on ahead and just pull on that plastic for me, Timmy. Come on now. Keep going. You can do it. You can pull on that, Timmy. Go ahead, bud. Oh, my goodness, Timmy. Timmy, I can't believe you're still pulling on it. I still can't believe you're still pulling on it. Good God. And there it goes. All right. That is why I use the Z-Man plastics. Now, the more that I stretch that, the more it disrupts the salt and the more it actually tends to keep that bait more vertical in the water. These are actually neutrally buoyant until you pull them like you just saw me do, and then they become vertical standing 100% of the time. The little bit of added weight that 10th ounce creates is nothing, and the actual slowed fall of that bait when you've disrupted those plastics like that means that your presentation in the water is always going to not only stand out, but it's going to look a little something like that the whole time that it's sitting down there. And that little tail is going to start wiggling around in every direction with little small changes in the current. And I'll tell you, when you're working the right technique, whether it's step 1, step 2, or step 3, one of those 3 things is going to cause triggering of fish. And when you give them something different in their world, in their area, in their, I don't know, AO, so to speak, they will tend to destroy it. They'll key on it. They'll key on it. I've done it many a time in some crystal clear water down in some of them South Florida lakes. It blew my mind. It blew my mind. Let me see. Will fish hit a vertical bait? Yes, Rachel, that's what I'm telling you. Fish absolutely will inspect and hit a vertical bait. But listen, it's always got to be sticking straight up, Rachel. You know who I'm talking about. If it's not sticking up, the worm don't wiggle the same, okay, on a vertical plane. It's interesting. It's really interesting how that works. But that's the reality of the situation, guys. Change in presentation, a change in technique over these next couple of cold months could actually end up landing you a lot more fish of much, much bigger quality. And the fights, oh, they film so well. They film so well, guys. You have no idea. I thought I had one loaded up, and I don't. I was going to show you guys something really, really funny. I'll put the pose in here for next time and let everybody see it. If you want me to do it now, I'll put the pose in here. That's right, small water charters flipping. Absolutely. Same vertical presentation concept. It's just a different way of going about it, because I can be honest with you, I have heavy sticks, but I have everything. I have gear, tens of thousands of dollars of some of the best gear in the industry that can be purchased legally. I've got it. Trust me. There's nothing out there I don't have. I could do product reviews that would blow your mind. You understand what I'm saying? But the reality of the situation is, I don't enjoy pitching and flipping. Unless you got power poles and something to keep you in position, an anchor's not going to allow you to work a mat properly. And at that point, you're just kind of poking around the edges, and that's where the dinks come from. You know what I mean? Like, I learned that. That's kind of where I find a lot of those dinks, is poking around those edges. It's difficult without boat positioning. You know, when you take the ability to position the boat out and you're just trying to maybe weigh an anchor and keep the trolling motor on. I mean, you're fishing those South Florida lakes, they can tell you 15 mile an hour sustained. And I know a lot of you guys are thinking, well, it's 15 mile an hour sustained. That's a good amount. You get out on that water, it's like 38 gusts, 40 gusts. I mean, I seen that the other night, there in the video the other day that one of you guys in the chat did. It just, power poles. That's the bottom line. Power poles and a 36-volt trolling motor will put you in places down here in South Florida that'll have you catching fish. That'll have your eyes rolling back in your head, and that's the reality of the situation as far as the fishing game down here in Florida. The next thing, guys, real quick before we get out of here, bait size. I know you guys are thinking, bigger the bait, bigger the bass. That is not true. That is not true. And I have seen big baits slay big bass, and I have seen baby bass slay big baits, and I have seen the smallest, silliest 1-inch presentation have 10-pound smallmouths driving them absolutely crazy. And that same logic applies to the largemouth. It really does. It's all presentation, opportunity, environment, and just you. I have a theory, and a lot of people don't. They tell me I'm crazy. My theory is there are literally fish everywhere all the time. And I know your live scopes and all this other stuff are showing you different. But I think if you start to really focus and sit and stop in areas and work slower techniques, like instead of just rolling through with the old trolling motor at 10 and you're pushing all 36 volts and 126 foot-pound of thrust, you're casting 3 times every 30 yards, looking at your buddy, talking about, we need to move. There ain't no fish here. There ain't no fish in this lake. Bud, I'm right behind you on a pontoon boat with an anchor tossed over, and I'm literally working 5-pounders on your wake. Like, that's the guy I am. And I've got a video on Harris coming out. We just had a BFL up here, and I had the cocky I'm driving in front of you guy. I was out with my buddy Patty. We were on his pontoon boat. We're sitting up in a spot. We wouldn't really have anything blocked, but there's 100 other ways around us. But, buddy just felt the need to drive through us. So Jesus, doing what Jesus does, decided to grant me a 3.5-pounder right on his wake as he was going by. And I didn't mind. I didn't mind at all. And I think it really taught them a valuable lesson too about slowing down, because they were moving at like wake speed in the no-go zone. You know what I mean? And people do that. It's like jet ski guys, but nonetheless, it comes down to winter months, slow down, better bait presentation, get something with, you want something maybe a 4-inch. I don't personally go down to the 2s. I haven't tried it yet, but I've got the gear to do it if that's what I want to do. All the way up to something as big as 8. I mean, I've still seen 8-inch. Mags are still crushing it too if your presentation's right, but it's not what people think it is. It's really not as fast right now as you'd want it to be. Water temperatures are pushing 60, 64, 66 down here in Florida right now. And in this time of the winter, the last thing you want to do is come out thinking you're going to run the rattle trap on an 8.3 in a full-on run like you're somebody because you saw Scott Martin do it once. Like, it's a different mindset when you're actually out here doing the angling thing. And maybe some of the stuff that I talked to you guys about will actually pay off for you one day. Well, listen, until next time, guys, it's been real. It's been fun. Thanks for showing up. Thanks for hanging out on the live. Again, everybody in the chat, jet skis are nuisance fish. Ice, I'm with you. And if we could bow hunt jet skis, bro, I'm about it. You understand? Small water, hook that up. You know what I mean? Yeah, small water said I've been watching him fish. Yeah, no, I hear you, buddy. I hear you. Guys, again, thanks for showing up. If you're new to the channel, if you haven't ever seen any of my episodes, or you haven't taken a look at any of their content, there'll be videos rolling after this. I hope you guys sub. I hope you send this to some friends. If you got a buddy that's got like 0 fishing skill and you're trying not to hurt his feelings, maybe share the video with him. And until next time, guys, see ya.